Hey everyone, I'm Shannon. I'm Director of Marketing and Growth at Tactical Logistics and super excited for another video in our series with e-commerce partners and professionals. So today, Ephraim and I are joined by Sharia from Hector AI. I'll pass it over to you, Sharia, to introduce yourself, tell us a little bit about Hector, and then Ephraim, reintroduce yourself after Sharia just to remind everyone who you are.
Perfect. So, hi guys, I'm Shaurya. I essentially head the managed service business at Hector. At Hector, we're a full stack Amazon solution. So, we have our own ad tech platform which helps brands optimize their advertising spends through a simple UI UX interface. We've also launched something very cool around MCP where people can just optimize campaigns through ChatGPT itself or Claude, whichever is their preference. And essentially, we offer a full stack solution for anything to do with Amazon ads and help brands scale on the platform.
Hey everyone, I'm Ephraim, the Chief Logistics Officer at Tactical Logistics. We are an end-to-end logistics provider helping Amazon and e-commerce sellers to succeed online by taking care of all their logistics, headaches, back-end stuff. So today we're going to have a very interesting conversation. We're going to talk about back-end and how front-end stuff like PPC really are pretty well tied with each other.
I think, kind of setting the stage for this conversation, it's easy to think that ads and operations are separate conversations, but they're not. In reality, they're really tightly connected. And while at first glance, it might not seem like something on the front end and something on the back end relies so heavily on each other, they do. And so we're going to talk a little bit about that today. But to start off, Sharia, what is Amazon DSP in simple terms? Because we talk about PPC a lot. I think in the last few years, a lot of people have heard the terms DSP, but explain it, break it down, tell us a little bit more.
So essentially, the way I like to kind of qualify it is that search kind of captures demand, whereas DSP generates demand, right? So what happens is search or PPC only shows up when somebody's already searching or already is curious about something to put in a search query for on Amazon. Whereas DSP lets you target and reach customers even when they're not searching, right? Say I'm browsing through platforms which are now integrated with DSP like Netflix, right? And I am curious about having to purchase something based on Amazon signals that I get. DSP lets you target this customer on and off Amazon, and essentially it helps you fight beyond the battle of PPC. So yeah, in principle, PPC is intent based, and DSP would be something that's audience based, where you chase the customer rather than let the customer come to you.
Interesting. So you're driving demand with DSP. So
Yeah.
for you, Ephraim, how does that differentiation between PPC and DSP, how does that translate to operational differences from a logistics standpoint?
So from a logistics standpoint is when someone runs out of stock or will go run out of stock, two things could happen. Number one is you have to lower your PPC, you have to lower your demand so people buy it less frequently so you don't run out of stock. That's one thing where you're basically slowing down your sales when technically you should double down on it, right? That's one way to go about it. Second thing is if you do actually run out of stock, that tanks your ranking. And if that tanks your ranking, automatically now when you get back in stock, you have to start spending double or triple the amount that you spent a week ago on PPC to get it back where it originally was. So in both ways, it's really detrimental to your business. It could really affect your business badly if you don't manage your logistics properly and you have a frequent cycle where you run out of stock. The same thing, Amazon's algorithm sees it as well, because this brand runs out of stock pretty often. They won't rank you so high, they won't push you so hard that automatically you're gonna have to spend more on PPC to really get to that front page in front of people, because Amazon sees, okay, you're not a reliable brand, you keep on running out of stock, so we can't push you organic. So with these three factors, that shows you how strong logistics plays a role on the PPC end.
Yeah, essentially, just to put it in metrics terms, the way we propagate it in our service is also it's either order velocity on a keyword or conversion rate on the keyword, right? And conversion rate by simple factors is everything about how you're able to fulfill demand, how quickly you're able to get the product across to the customer. So in a metrics term, conversion rate, which allows me to even bid on the platform, is what is very directly tied to logistics and something that we very prominently advocate within the service business also as a.
Yeah, I think, there's a preliminary use case for using DSP to drive to where your inventory is, right? But then that doesn't work if you're planning on scaling significantly. So maybe, Sharia, you could talk a little bit about that. If that's your starting point is, yes, I can do DSP ads where my inventory is, and that can help me get fulfilled faster, that's great. But what are some other considerations as you scale DSP? And then maybe, Ephraim, you can also weigh in on scaling DSP. What does that mean for having to scale your infrastructure for logistics as well?
Perfect. So essentially what happens when it comes to DSP, right? As I mentioned, you're chasing the customer. So something that becomes very important is the audience that you're targeting, right? As is with any demand side platform, the quality of the audience is what decides whether your campaign is going to be targeting the correct customer, because that's just half of the battle, right? Bringing the correct customer to the landing page. Thereafter, it is again the fulfillment side, the product, the price that is going to decide if the customer is going to convert at the end of it. Now, where we start for any small brand or any brand which is just starting with DSP, it's always going to be in areas where my conversion rates are the best at a geographical level, because that's where I should have and will have the highest amount of conversion rate, which is where you can at least start testing that okay, the audience is correct. Once you're confident on the audience being correct, which is where you do A/B testing, right? You can do a lot of interesting audiences like lookalike audiences, people who have added your product to cart in 30 days but have not purchased in the last 7 days, right? So chasing those customers who showed the best intent there is out there, which is an add to cart. You first find out which audience works, where you're confident on the geography that you're advertising in, and thereafter is where you scale to a larger geography, because there you're confident on one lever, which is audience. So doing it in a structured manner, being able to diagnose all the data real time, is where it's very important to run DSP and to do it in this fashion, because it's not as easy as just selecting, say, in market audiences and running it, right? I mean, some of the brands we work with, they have very specific niches which only cater to certain geographies in the country, right? Like the niches they're in. So they need to have DSP budgets dedicated there. And as you're scaling, then naturally geography plays an important factor, audiences play an important factor. And essentially that's how you can kind of start off small, but do the A/B testing, as I mentioned, on the different levels of audiences, right? There's interest, there's lookalike, there's add to carts. You can even create audiences such as people who viewed a competitor's product but haven't bought the competitor's product. So this is like the best customer that is out there. And this is where you can target them, where you're confident that delivery is on time. There is nothing better to start off a small amount of DSP campaigns or investments with it.
Yeah, and on same on the logistics side is like Amazon provides you information. You could actually look and pull certain reports and see where your products and which locations they're sitting at. And then if you feel like, okay, I want to focus on state of New York, right? And I see I have a lot of product in Jersey, Pennsylvania, Rhode Island, Maryland, all these areas where they're more or less within a 1 day shipping window to the end user. Okay, if you want to try to do DSP and start small campaigns, you can, okay, I want to focus on New York area. I want to focus on New Jersey. You have a lot of products sitting there. But if you're going to focus on certain areas where you're not sure if you have product, you better look at that. If you just want to be safe at all times, if you do optimize shipping, you're most likely covering a ton of more territory and a ton of more areas. But you want to see what you have in what area, because Amazon will probably push more to New York if you have a lot of orders in New York. They'll push more to California if they have a lot of orders going to California. So Amazon is basically an algorithm system where it just feeds data, eats data, and feeds data basically, and that's how they decide where to place your product. So I would say that would be added, but that was very clear and very understanding how DSP works, and I appreciate that because, for me, even myself, I was a seller, but when I was a seller, there was no DSP, and I got now much more clarity and understanding how DSP works. I appreciate that.